Hey everybody, Jake from Umbrella IT Services here. Today we're speaking with Dominic Vogel from CyberSC. Dominic's going to break down a ton of information about cybersecurity for local businesses, including how to keep your business safe, how to make sure your files are secure, and a ton of other information. So without any further ado, let's jump into it. I'd like to give Dom a big thank you for coming on today and talking with us about cybersecurity and how it can affect local businesses. Dom, thank you so much for coming on today. Do you mind giving us a little bit of a background on yourself and how you got into cyber risk management and what your journey looks like to get to where you are today?
Absolutely. And Jake, thank you so much for having me on your show. I truly appreciate it.
No worries.
Cybersecurity has been a passion of mine. I think since my last year of high school, which was way back when kind of thing. And so the journey I went on to get here was, I went through my university days, and oddly enough, the word cybersecurity was uttered once in my whole 4-year degree.
Sounds all right.
And the person who mentioned it was me. I asked a question about cybersecurity. So, but a lot of my cybersecurity training and education came after. I've been very fortunate. I've been working in the field for close to 15 years, and it's all I've ever known professionally. So, I always tell people there's two versions of me. There was corporate me, which was the first 10 years of my career. And then the last 5 years, the current version of me, which you're talking to today, that's the entrepreneurial me. So corporate me worked through various corporate roles. I actually spent a lot of time in the credit union system here in Greater Vancouver. I was in charge of cybersecurity for First West Credit Union. And just one day I realized I hated corporate life. I was not meant for that. I always thought I was a corporate person. And I realized, no, there's this entrepreneurial person in me that I want to grow. So it was actually 5 years ago this August, so it's my 5-year anniversary, when I left corporate and formed CyberSC, which is my advisory company. And for the past 5 years, I've been going on that incredible journey of not just growing a business, but this journey of self-discovery, finding out more about myself. I always thought I was this introverted, quiet person who didn't really like talking to people. Turns out I love talking to people. I love doing podcasts. If you and I had crossed paths during my corporate days, I probably wouldn't have talked. I wouldn't have wanted to be on the podcast or anything. So it's very interesting to see all these qualities that I didn't know that I had, both from mainly from a business and lifestyle perspective, has been really, really cool. So we're really humbled and very blessed to be able to serve so many amazing small and mid-sized organizations throughout North America. And for me personally as well, in terms of cybersecurity, I love being, the term that gets thrown out is thought leader. I kind of hate that term. I just refer to myself as a talking head. I love making cybersecurity relatable to non-technical people, and do so in a way which is engaging, fun, because unfortunately in IT, and I think you and I can relate to this, Jake, there's a stereotype, I think it holds true for a reason, that a lot of IT and security people tend to have the personality of a boiled potato. So It's good to be able to show that we can be engaging. We can make what can be a very technical subject at least relatable to non-technical people. So that's pretty much me in a very strange, large nutshell.
Very cool. Well, congratulations on your 5-year anniversary. That's a huge stepping stone. Every year you're beating out 80% of the competitions. That's awesome. And I think that what you said about having the personality and making sure things are relatable and being able to break things down for the average person is so important. Like whenever we're implementing solutions for people, I make sure that everyone understands to not get too technical with folks. The information's there if they need it, but it's most important to understand why things are being implemented and what impact they're going to have inside of an organization. So I was really excited to have you on today and talk to you, because cybersecurity is something that we provide as part of our stack, but I always like talking to experts who are completely niched down into a field. So what would you say is the biggest difference between when you were doing cybersecurity and cyber risk management for this credit union and this corporate world versus some of your smaller and medium-sized businesses that you're working with?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that one of the main differences, again, when you look at large organizations and enterprises versus small and mid-sized organizations, for the most part, there's still so many small and mid-sized organizations that are stuck in what I refer to as 1995 thinking.
Yeah.
And that's where they say, well, we have we're a small company. No one wants what we have. No one's going to come hack us. Or we have Norton 360. We're good.
Yeah,
that's one of my personal favorites. And it's like, well, you know what? These are all valid statements if the calendar read 1995. It's 2020, and that's one of the biggest changes that I've seen over the course of my career is that small and mid-sized organizations, for the most part, they were able to get away by not investing in cybersecurity. Just because that old obscurity thing, it did hold true, but not forever. And as we've seen now, every single company, big or small, they have data, they're online, they have a virtual presence. You are at risk. You are a target. We're dealing with professional cyber criminals now. We've gone well past kiddie hackers and amateurs and all that. I always tell these small and mid-sized organizations, if you take an amateur approach to cybersecurity right now, that's like bringing a spoon to a gunfight. You're done. You're going up against professionals. So you need to have a professional mindset in dealing with cyber risk.
100%. I completely agree with that. And it is very, it's a big problem that there's a lot of small, medium business owners out there that are saying, well, we're not big enough, or we don't have anything, or there's nothing of value in this company. And there's a lot of value in that company. How many people's salaries are you paying for? How much information are you managing? What kind of clients are you working with? I know one of the statistics is over 50% of people that get hit by ransomware, which is a type of virus that gets in your computer, locks your data, and then you have to pay hackers somewhere a ransom to get your data back. I think it's over 50% of businesses that got hit thought they were too small or not important enough to get hit. And in my experience, what goes on is they didn't have a proper firewall in place, or one employee was using a remote access method that wasn't secure, or they had an email server that wasn't secure, or just some very niche technical piece of infrastructure in their system wasn't secured the right way. The hackers get access through that. They hang out for like a month to 3 months. They just kind of soak up information, look at emails coming in, look at emails coming out, and then they launch. And then all of a sudden, you've just lost all of your backups, which is just a hard drive plugged into the server in the back, and you lost all of your workstations, and 10 plus years of your business can be gone, and now you're on the hook for $100,000 US in Bitcoin, and your business is down for on average 2.5 weeks. So again, it can be absolutely devastating. We've got 2 clients on our roster now that we actually we worked with them after they got hit by ransomware, and they called us to clean up the mess. And both of them almost lost their businesses both times, because it's just absolutely devastating for a small business to be down for 20 days and to be paying out $100,000 ransom US with absolutely no notice. So in my experience, it's about insurance, but there's also a lot of growth opportunities while they're working with cybersecurity. What are some of the ways that CyberSC kind of helps their clients grow as well as develop while you're focusing on the security aspect of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And really great points there about the ransomware, Jake. One quick thing I want to add to that before answering your question, there was, I often when I talk to businesses or to people, I'll say, stuff like cyber risk or ransomware or data breaches, I always say, what size of company has the most to lose? Is it the large enterprises or is it the smaller organizations? And so many people will say, well, it's the large organizations. They have the most money. They have the most to lose. And the thing is, that's false. If you look at all the data breaches from all the big companies, or at least the ones that make the mainstream media, they all recover. They all end up being fine. They have the war chest to survive.
They're in the media.
Yeah, exactly. It's not an existential threat for them. For every large company that you see going through a data breach and surviving, there's anywhere between 3 to 5 small organizations that no one's heard about that go under. The cyber risk is an existential threat to small organizations because they don't have the sizable war chest to get through that. They cannot afford, in many cases, to pay that ransom or to go offline. So the very existence of their business is at stake. And I think that's a piece that a lot of people overlook. It's not sort of the how much money you have to lose. It's like I said, it's that existential question. So I think it's super important for every business owner and people, especially from a local business perspective, to switch their mindset from the we're too small approach to being this is an existential threat. We have everything to lose.
100%. Yeah. When you're a small accounting firm, or when your insurance agency, or when your product company gets hit by this stuff, you're not getting any press. You know what I mean? Your clients are just going, "Where are you?" And you can't email them most of the time. You can't phone them. Your CRM is gone. You know what I mean? It's a big challenge to kind of understand exactly how devastating it is to lose everything digital for a week, and then be scrambling to recover your data. Which is why one of the things we use is backups to prevent this kind of stuff. But
Absolutely.
yeah, so I know that CyberSC's tagline is securing business growth. So I really do want to touch on how investing in security can relate to business growth.
Absolutely. As I went on that mini rant, I forgot what your question was, so thank you for restating that.
No worries.
Our tagline is securing business growth for a reason, and one of the reasons why we do that is really about helping organizations break through that myth or stereotype that security is there just for security's sake, or that it's a sunk cost. There's unfortunately no shortage of security firms and security consultants that take a security at all cost approach. Security doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in the context of business. And when you're talking to, again, non-technical people, business business owners, what they care most about is the growth of their business. No one wants to say, if they have a business, I'm just hoping to just maintain everything for the next 20 years. No, every business owner wants to have growth. And in this day and age, we feel that security is a key enabler, and it empowers businesses to securely reach various stages of business growth. If you want your business to grow and to do so steadily, you need to invest in cybersecurity. And again, it's trying to reframe things. And rather than seeing security as a cost center, see it as an investment in making sure that your business growth actually does materialize. So again, when we talk about all these things, we're not talking about firewalls or threats or the Chinese or Russians or what have you. Really, we're talking about, we live in a digital age, and if you're investing in technology and you're investing in things like digital transformation, you need to invest in security. These are all necessary ingredients for business growth, and these are all terms that resonate with CEOs, COOs, CFOs, what have you. It's not all about the you need to secure this port kind of thing. You don't need to get to that level of granularity. At least not initially.
Yeah, I entirely agree. What are some of the risks that people are securing themselves against, just so people can kind of understand what it is exactly you're protecting them from?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, there's a lot of different venues here. So I mean, the first one I'll talk about is think about protecting against external threats. So external threats could be cyber criminals, quote unquote hackers. These are the type of people that are trying to steal data. Every organization now has sensitive data. Sensitive data could be confidential business information. It could be your sensitive client or customer information, financial information. Data can be so easily monetized now. People don't understand that data is very much a commodity, especially on the underground market. So making sure that you are putting in the right security controls to protect against such theft of that data, or at least to be able to detect if that theft is in progress. That's one area. Another area is, and this is really relevant for B2B, so business to business organizations, is making sure that you're able to demonstrate to other businesses where you, especially if you're a small organization, if you're supplying a platform or a service or some sort of technology, you need to be able to demonstrate to your customers, to your clients, that you have an active cybersecurity program in place. The reason why that's so important is that larger organizations right now are really clamping down on supply chain risk and further clamping down on what's referred to as vendor risk management. So they want to make sure that any of the vendors that they rely on are making sure that any data that they pass along or any response for their systems are being integrated, that there's sufficient security mechanisms in place. This all came out of when Target, the U.S. retailer, got breached. Gosh, whatever that was, I'm going to say 8 or 9 years ago. And the reason that happened was it was through a third-party vendor, their HVAC vendor, smaller company that got compromised, and cyber attackers were able to gain access to Target's internal network. that HVAC vendor, by the way, no longer exists. So another reason why
wow.
it's an existential threat. The target still exists.
Yeah.
But as I said, this is super important, and this is where I love to say that this is where cybersecurity has a very clear business reason now. So I would say if you're small company A and small company B, let's say you have two companies, let's say they have the same type of platform, and they're both trying to sell to Fortune 500 companies. Let's say maybe they have some HR platform. Company A didn't really bother about cybersecurity. They don't really know anything about that, and they don't really care. Company B has taken the time to invest in cybersecurity, and as a result, they're able to actively demonstrate to their potential clients and customers that they have sufficient cybersecurity mechanisms in place. Company B is now in a spot of competitive differentiation. They're able to get through the procurement process far, far faster and far quicker. And the large companies know that. If it comes down to two companies right now, they're going to go with the one that's able to actively demonstrate a proper cybersecurity program. So it's a very clear business reason why cybersecurity needs to be invested in, and that has excited me, because finding sort of those business reasons rather than just focusing on external stuff like hackers, it's really helped to make it real for CEOs and CFOs.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think one of the ways that we explain things is the impact of the business as well. And I do really like the fact that you brought up the vendor threat, because that's been one of the largest ones in my experience. So we have a client, I don't want to give any details, but we have a client who has a vendor, and their vendor was compromised for, 2.5 months or something like that. They had no idea. There was someone snooping around in their emails for 2.5 months. And one day, 3 of the executive leaders of this business that we manage were all sent emails from appropriate emails. Like, it was the middle of a thread, sending data back and forth, spreadsheets through OneDrive, just basic stuff like that. And they responded saying, oh, you know what? Actually, I think that we need to make some corrections on this file. Here are my thoughts. And then there was an attached Excel spreadsheet. And it's from a trusted source. It's in the middle of an email thread that's like 6 responses deep for each person at least. And of course, they clicked on the Excel spreadsheets, and our AI-based antivirus caught it, did its thing, and the attack was prevented. But it just goes to show that it's, even when you're getting emails from people nowadays that you trust, that you're in the middle of an email thread with, that can be someone else. And I was shocked, to be honest with you, that happened. Of course, again, we make sure we're thinking ahead. We're making sure that we've got multiple layers of security for all of our clients. Again, I don't want to give details about that, but we use at least 5 layers of security for every level of their infrastructure. We use several different types of backups. So it's very important to me to make sure that when something unexpected like that happens, everyone's prepared and everyone's ready. And I think that's, again, one of the value adds that bringing in a company like CyberSC really does, because if you're doing an audit, if you're doing an assessment on an existing system, we do this all the time, and I find 9 or 10 holes per business on average. I'm sure you find a similar sort of thing, but if these businesses, to tie it back to what we were saying originally, if these businesses want to avoid downtime, they want to preserve their reputation, and if they want to make sure their data remains secure, like it's not so easy, like you said, as just saying, well, I have Norton 360. Like, what else do I need? Like, Norton 360, in my opinion, is worse than Windows Defender by itself, and it's a cost. So the free antivirus that comes with your computer is better than Norton antivirus. That's my hot take of the day. So yeah, I think that it's it's a good opportunity for people like you and I right now to be able to educate people. And while the rest of the industry is going, but gigabits and the RAM and these other really, really technical things that people don't care about, you and I are going, this is going to have a bad impact on your business unless you secure this. Like, I was able to get access to your internal private Wi-Fi network sitting in your lobby waiting for you to meet with me. You need to focus on this stuff, because all it's going to take is one robot programmed by a 14-year-old Ukrainian kid scanning the internet to accidentally stumble upon your business, and you're going to owe him $100,000 US by the end of the week, and no one's going to be working for the next 2 to 3 weeks here. And I think people really need to understand that side of it.
That's so true, Jake. And the two quick thoughts on that, and with the great example there with that email thread there in terms of how again, I hate using the term sophisticated, but I think it shows the evolution of email based threats, and again the mindset of again that people are still stuck in 1995. When we talk to prospects about email based threats, they're like, well, our staff know not to click on the Nigerian print scams, and it's like, again, great. Again, if this was the mid 90s and Bill Gates was still CEO of Microsoft, I'd say sure, good job. Mm-hmm. But this again is 2020. Get your head out of the friggin' gutter. You're not living in the mid 90s now. The Spice Girls aren't around anymore. It's a totally different mentality now. And so I think there's still almost this referred to as false sense of security that so many organizations and businesses have. And I think that's the most dangerous thing. People will say about whether or not they have the right technology in place or the right processes. To me, it all comes down to the mindset. If your CEO, CFO, whomever business owner has that mindset, you can have the best technology in the world. You're still screwed because from the top down, that leadership approach is going to doom you to failure from a security perspective. So I think it's super important that if people talk about where do we start when it comes to cybersecurity, it's the mindset. Realizing that, like I said, it's 2020 and every business is at risk. Restart your mindset and don't come from a false sense of security because you're like I said, you're setting yourself up to failure. And the other quick point is that so many of our when we talk to prospects, so many of them are what I refer to as reactive. They come to us after a data breach, after a negative incident, not something again they're trying to do proactive. And even then, we find that there's still so many organizations. And I'll give an example here. There was a prospect who their business was literally the owner told us. He said our business was literally days away from shutting down. Days away, and I was like, okay, well, so then we went back with the proposal and said, okay, well, here's how we're going to help them from a cyber risk leadership perspective. Here's what we'll do, in terms of assessments and working with your IT team and that type of thing. And then she said, oh wow, I was thinking, maybe $200 a month. And I was like, you told me that your organization that you own, your business, basically everything that you told me that you had built up over the past 35 years, that you came within a whisker's length of being shut down, and you're saying that value to you is $200 a month to try and make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like we're oceans apart. Sure, I may not be the world's greatest salesman, but I don't even think the world's greatest salesperson will be able to bridge that type of gap. So, and the scary thing is that there's still that prevalent mindset that even when they go through this, and we've noticed that even if the longer it goes, so we've talked to people 6 months after an incident, and they're like, well, it's been 6 months and nothing bad has happened. I was like, wow. So there's like almost a recency bias as well, which affects the mindset. So that's why I would say the mindset piece, we really have to just convince more and more people that this isn't make-believe stuff. This is real, and it's not just about worrying about hackers. What's at stake, like I said, is your very livelihood.
Yeah, and it's not like a lightning strike. Like you're more likely to get hit again if you've been hit once.
Yes, especially with something like ransomware. If you paid ransom once, you're more than likely to be paying it again very, very soon.
Exactly. And I think one of the reasons why people are so not hesitant to spend money, but one of the reasons why people are so skeptical of people like you and I now is it kind of bleeds over from the computer repair days. Like when I was doing iPhone repair and stuff like that, people would be like, oh, it's so expensive. Why is it so expensive? And there was all these, so you have Apple and they're doing the phone screen repairs, and then you have people like myself and a bunch of other small business owners that were fixing phone screens. And 75% of people fixing phone screens were doing shady stuff. Like I remember there's a place out in Burnaby, and I would have people go there and then they would come see me, and I was like, I should just stand outside there with a sign saying, did this company break your thing? Because they would be literally taking batteries out of phones and replacing it with non-OEM batteries, so they could resell the batteries to other people. And they would be putting in screens where the glass would separate and pop out of the actual screen, and then charge the person twice for a good screen. And it's very similar in my experience now with companies saying that they're cybersecurity experts and they're IT providers and they're IT consultants and they're a managed services company. And They don't even use backups. They don't use data protection. They don't train people's staff. There's so many basic tenets of what you have to do to manage a company's IT that are just like not being taken care of by these people. And I think that when people see their bill, which can be thousands and thousands of dollars a month, and they pay that bill thousands and thousands of dollars a month, and then when it's time to put the rubber to the road, they find out this company has basically been scamming them for the last 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it's been, they're incredibly hesitant to invest in other people. So I think that's one of the big sources, is that our industry, because it is such a wild, wild west, it's so important for clients to do research on people, to look into their background, to see if they're reputable, talk to their existing clients, and really dig into the person before they do business with them, so they can make sure the value the person is going to provide them matches with that number. Because again, we still have some clients for $200 a month. We're talking about individuals and just very small businesses. I'm very happy to work with nonprofits and whatever, but I have a lot of people that are 60-person companies, 45-person companies, and when we give them a proposal for, like, again, not $1,000 a month, not $500 a month, they're like, what is this? And it's like, well, you're saving 2 full-time salaries to manage your entire organization. You're getting all of this software, you're getting all of this maintenance, you're getting all of this security stuff, all these backups, etc. And they still say, well, the last guy was cheaper. And it's like, yes, yeah, the last guy was cheaper, but he's also the reason why you didn't have any business for 20 days, 30 days, why you didn't have any backups in place, and why it cost you, again, $80,000 to $100,000 US in my experience. So I think it's up to people like you and I to really kind of call out other folks in the industry that we see doing this shady stuff, because it really does hurt all of us when that one scammer who can talk really nicely goes in and starts to sell people on solutions that they don't need. I think it's so important to kind of call those folks out.
Absolutely, and Jake, it's something which, and I completely agree with you. Like, people like you and I are unfortunately paying for the sins of those who came before us, and that's one of the biggest roadblocks that we come up against. Is that at some point in the past, I'll say 3 to 8 years, a lot of our prospects that we talk to have said, well, we brought in a security consultant, or we brought leverage another organization, and it's either one of they said, we paid $60K for this huge security assessment report. It was like 400 pages, told us all the things we were doing wrong, but we didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And again, not to name names, but I'll just refer to the big four, those advisory firms, in which they often will try and take the enterprise approach to how they do cyber risk management and try and ram that down the throat of a small and mid-sized organization. Small and mid-sized organizations, they don't need some big fancy report. They need to know practically what should they be focusing on this year, and year after. They need to have that almost that hand holding to be able to get there. This isn't some fancy report which is going to be stamped a bunch of times and go before the audit committee and some other enterprise risk committee. You can't take an enterprise approach to risk and think that will be applicable to a small and mid-sized organization. And even with other security vendors, an example I'll give is we were dealing with a prospect, and they said, we're good. We actually spent like $200,000 on this state-of-the-art security tool. They didn't even know what the tool was. It was a security information event monitoring tool. And they said, the salesperson said that this is all we need, that we can install it and forget about it, and it'll protect our environment. I was like, really? I said, do you mind if I take a look at it? So took a look at it, and then I was like, it's racked here. There was an actual device.
Yeah, an appliance,
an appliance, and I was like, it's not even powered on. And then I went behind, and there's no power cable. And I said, so I went back out, and I said, who put it in the server room? And they said, the sales guy helped us put it in for us. I was like, does anyone ever check to see if it generates reports or anything, or generates alerts? I said, no, we've never checked. He said it's basically set it and forget it. I said, well, just an FYI, it's not even powered on. And I could see the color drain from their face. And they had spent, like I said, upwards of $250,000 over the past 4 years, or 5 years, whatever it was, on that appliance. Again, false sense of security. Mm-hmm. And again, this was a non-technical person being taken advantage of by a salesperson who was able to be charming enough and have enough sales lingo and security lingo to scare someone into buying a product, buying a platform. That's that silver bullet syndrome, and it's dangerous, and it's a shame that that our industry is tainted by the minority, or at least the few individuals that do that, but it smears the rest of us.
Exactly. What would you say is something? So let's say that I'm a small business owner and I really don't know a lot about this stuff. Where can I get started? In what areas of my business should I focus on when I'm going to get serious about security?
That's a really, really good question. So I'll give two parts to that. The part one is, hang on, I sound like a broken record here, is the mindset. Making sure that yourself and however large your executive team is, making sure that you recognize that cyber risk is an area that you need to focus on as an organization. And you also need to realize that as the CFO or CEO, whomever ultimately that is responsible for cyber risk, that you need to have leadership when it comes to that. Just like in any business, the CEO has expertise in the business and in growth. The CFO has expertise in finance. You take your average small mid-sized organization, you have leadership when it comes to operations, business, finance, HR, what have you. There's a leadership void when it comes to cyber risk. And cyber risk is an area which, as I said earlier, you cannot take an amateur approach to it. So again, I hope this doesn't sound too much like a shameless plug, but you need to be able to engage with people who can provide cyber risk leadership, help you as a business and as an organization understand what elements or what threats and what cyber subsections of cyber risks you need to focus on. Cyber risk is something which it's different for every organization, because different organizations have different regulations they have to deal with, different threats that they may face depending on what sector they're in, different government regulations, different contractual obligations with their clients and stakeholders. So you need to take it's like a tailored suit. You need to take a tailored approach to it. It's not a cookie cutter approach. So I think engaging with someone who's able to provide that type of leadership and that type of advisory capability, that to me is a starting point, because you need to know what you're dealing with. And even if you don't want to pay for something, get even something, a high level assessment. Again, shameless plug, go to CyberSC. There's a 16 question questionnaire. It's all simple yes or no questions. And there's a free report that gets generated from that. At a high level, you'll be able to at least see what areas your organization should be focusing on from a cyber risk perspective.
Yeah, I think that's really important for people to notice. Do you segment the businesses at all into different categories? Like, for example, when we're working on them, I like to break things down for folks in terms of cloud services, networks, users, workstations, servers, that kind of stuff. Do you do anything like that when you're explaining things to folks?
Absolutely. So one of my personal favorite frameworks that we use for, I want to say, the majority of our clients, because the majority of our clients have never assessed or thought about maturing their cyber security platform, their cyber risk management. So we use the CIS, so Center for Information Security, top 20 security controls. It's a global standard. It's a very quick and dirty way of being able to assess the security posture of an organization. Does a great job of looking at people, process, and technology, and also different areas of, at least from a technology perspective, where cyber risk can exist. So like you were saying there, at the workstation level, at the user level, at the application level, right across the board kind of thing, at the network level. So it's important to be able to do that. And that's always our first step, is what I refer to as baselining, because you need to know what your starting point is. And if you've never assessed it before, you need to know where you're growing from. So we can see that, and then based on what we find, then you're able to say, okay, year over year, recognizing that security is a journey. It's not just like saying, oh, let's upgrade to Office 365 and then we'll wash our hands and be done with it. Security evolves as the company evolves. So that's where, working with leadership, we can say, okay, based on growth projections, based on where you want the company to go and grow, here's what we're recommending in terms of security improvements year over year. So I said something like the CIS framework is a great starting point. And then as things evolve, if it needs to become more serious, shall we say, there's other frameworks and other security certifications that can be started or pursued. But to me, you need to start somewhere and then be able to grow from there.
100%. You mentioned Microsoft 365 there. If people move to a cloud service like that, Microsoft 365 or G Suite or Dropbox, etc., they're safe, right? They don't need to worry about security if they're in the cloud.
Another one of my favorite myths. Yeah. It's that understanding again as well of almost this, and again, it's funny in which, to me, it's the next iteration of the myth in which I often hear with other organizations is that, our IT MSP handles cybersecurity. If something happens, it's on them. And it's like, well, not really. It doesn't exactly work like that. It's that out of sight, out of mind, in which you can't outsource the risk. Yes, you may be outsourcing operational elements of that, but again, if your organization gets breached, it's your customers and your clients are going to be looking at you.
Yeah.
It's not your internal IT team. They're not coming after your IT manager. They're not coming after your IT managed service provider. At the end of the day, and it's what so many business owners and executives still need to understand, is that when it comes to due care, due diligence, and a fiduciary responsibility, that is on you as a business owner, as a business executive. You need to provide the right governance and oversight on that risk. You own that risk.
Yeah.
You can't outsource that risk. You can do things to lower that risk by engaging an IT MSP, having cyber insurance, bringing in people like CyberSC. Those are all things that can help to lower the risk, but ultimately you still own that risk. And by doing nothing or saying, we went to Office 365, it's all on them now. If there's a breach, no, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You still need to make sure that there is sufficient steps being taken, especially with the cloud. That's a shared responsibility model, that you understand what your cloud service provider is taking care of from a risk perspective and what responsibility you still have as an organization in terms of managing that risk.
Yeah.
There's too many people who still wash their hands of things. And again, mindset, that's a dangerous mindset.
Yeah, I think it's super important for people to keep in mind that 91% of attacks that happen on small businesses come in through the people, not the technology.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's so important to note that if you move your stuff onto the cloud, it's really not that secure. It's actually more accessible in terms of locking down the data and the encryption and this kind of stuff. It is, in my opinion, much better than having like an on-premise file server. Just in terms of redundancy and in terms of the encryption and all these other things. But in regards to a business thinking that just because you've moved to the cloud and you're secure, that doesn't really mean a lot. In my opinion, it doesn't matter what technology you're using. It comes down to the mindset that you talked about earlier and making sure that you have redundancy in place. And I always use that word 1,000 times in every meeting, because you need to have redundancy across your devices, across your applications, across your software, across everything. And if you don't have that redundancy, then when something happens, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Again, I don't sell anyone any sort of false stories. I tell them, I'm coming in to look at the existing house of cards that your previous IT provider has set up. Now I'm going to build you a different house of cards. It's not infallible. There's no such thing as security proof or virus proof. But here are the contingency plans that we have in place in case something happens in the future. And when I take that approach, people seem to be a lot more responsive to it versus, again, a lot of these shysters out there, they go, it's the best. It's proof. All you got to do is turn on this box in the back room and it's going to make sure that everything is taken care of. And it's like, that is, if it sounds too good to be true, it is too good to be true. And I think the fact that IT is kind of shrouded in this mystery and a lot of people think that it's just black magic makes it really easy for people to take advantage of them. But you really do have to take the same mindset as when I go to the mechanic. If I go to a mechanic, oh, your oil pan's leaking. It's like, is it on my car? Is it really? It's leaking again the same way it was last time? Wow. Okay. No, thank you. I'm good. If you have that skeptical mindset when you're talking to them and you come from a positive place and you're trying to understand, they're trying to help, and you just kind of dig in a little bit, take notes while you're doing it, a lot of these people will contradict themselves. You know what I mean? A lot of these people will give you solutions and you can go look up those solutions. You can go talk to their other clients. It's the same thing as if you're hiring a staff member. Like, I would highly recommend that you take whatever information they give you, ask them for a couple of their existing clients and go, hey, excuse me, do you use this service? And what has your experience been with it? And has this helped you at all? Do you get these reports they're talking about? Are you getting these solutions they're talking about? Have you noticed a benefit from having this individual around, et cetera, or this organization around? And people are going to be able to give them that feedback, because if you don't do that due diligence and you walk into a mechanic shop, it's like a shark with blood in the water. You know what I mean? A lot of these guys, as soon as people are like, "Oh, I don't know anything about this. I don't understand. Like, I just want you to handle it." They do take advantage, and it's very, very frustrating for me because, again, as you mentioned, it ruins it for everybody. And I want to make sure that people are starting to look at IT the same way they look at accounting and bookkeeping. Right? It sucks. It's not a lot of fun. People like you and I, the weirdos, we get excited by it. But again, the same thing with the accountants, right? But at the end of the day, it is another one of those boring facets of your business that now is crucial. If you're not doing your accounting, you're going to prison. You know what I mean? And if you don't do your IT security and your IT management, your IT strategizing, your business is either going to fall behind, or it's going to be destroyed and eradicated by one of these 14-year-old Ukrainian kids and one of their little robots. And it's kind of ridiculous that we live in this dystopian movie now, where I've seen literally a bunch of 16, 17-year-old Ukrainian kids get into banks. I've seen them get into giant organizations, and they get jobs out of it now as well. They're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year because at 14 they were able to break into Wells Fargo or Goldman Sachs. You know what I mean? So it is odd that we live in this world now, but it is just so crucial for business owners to understand that you don't have to break the bank, you don't have to go nuts, but having a quarterly meeting with an IT consultant and just saying, this is where I am, this is where I want to be, what do I need to do to get there securely? You can just do that, and they can tell you, hey, I'm just going to come in, I'm going to spend a couple hours looking at your systems, a couple hours talking to your staff, I'll send out a form, whatever, and just need to see kind of where you guys are at again after 3 months, and they can kind of make these tune-ups. There's so many different ways that people can do things without spending $10,000, $25,000 a month. Like I mentioned, we're able to protect some people for like the equivalent of a cup of coffee every day. You know what I mean? So you don't have to break the bank. You don't have to be overwhelmed. All you need to do is have the same sort of relationship with an IT provider that you have with your accountant. I think that's one of the most important things that I'd want people to walk away from listening to this from.
That's such a great takeaway, Jake. I honestly don't think I could top that. I totally agree. 100%. I think that's such an important takeaway. And one little thing I'll add, I love, I'll refer to R&R. So one R being redundancy. Another R, which is a favorite of mine, is resiliency. You know, in this day and age, again, it's not about having that mindset of, oh, we'll never have a virus, we'll never get breached. No, there's no such thing as 100% security. What you want, though, is to have an organization that is resilient in the face of dynamic cyber threats. You want to have an organization that's resilient in the face of ongoing cyber threats. That is the goal, not to have 100% security.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. What are some basic strategies that you recommend to businesses that they can put in place to kind of secure their stuff?
Yeah, to me, there's a couple starting points. One is to make sure that you have a very strong relationship with, again, either their internal IT team or your outsourced IT managed service provider. If I see this with so many executives in which they just blindly trust what their IT manager or their IT managed service provider is saying, because the communication planes are like this. The technical team is speaking in tech talk. The senior management and senior executives have no idea what they're saying, and a lot of them don't want to appear to be foolish in the face of that, and will just say, okay. And again, they don't know what they're agreeing to. Yeah. So to me, one of the foundational spots there is to have a very firm, really great relationship. If you're still unable to speak on the right communication plane, and again, I hope this is somewhat of a shameless plug, that's where, again, bringing in an advisor, an outside consultant like us, we always refer to ourselves as a conduit in which we can talk to the business, we can talk to the tech team, right? We're able to speak multiple languages, even if that language is still English. We're still, tech talk needs to be translated to the business and vice versa. So by getting everyone on the same page there, that to me is often one of the most important foundational starting points. All the other security controls are moot unless you're able to communicate effectively with each other.
Yeah, and I think that I would add on to that is that I think it's so important that when you bring in a consultant that they're able to work with the existing IT team. because
Exactly.
I've had a lot of people come in and they go, oh, this is horrible. What is this? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, give me your proposal. Give me your proposal, and we'll look at
Yeah.
what you got to say. Because I'm very interested in making sure my clients are protected, and I want to be the best we can. So if we have a hole in our security here, we'll go through it. And again, literally, I've seen somebody say you need Norton 360 instead of whatever this other one is because I've never heard of it. And you need to make sure that you're using Dropbox for your backups.
Oh
And again,
God.
when they're talking to the business owner will trust them a little bit more than they'll trust us, even though we've got this long-term relationship, because they were referred in usually in my experiences. It's the CEO's wife's brother, you know what I mean? Or
Oh,
it's
yeah.
someone like
Okay.
that. And it's like, well, he said this. And it's like, okay, let's all have a meeting. Let's all have a big discussion. Let's get everything out on the table and we'll see what's wrong and why it's wrong. And as long as you're able to have civil, positive, productive discussions with the
Yeah.
consultant, that's great. And 99% of the time, that's my experience. But I have had one or two people that come in, and you can tell that they're just starving. It's like a used car salesman with a bad year. You know, they're just like at any hook they can grab onto, they will. And all they want to do is just get their foot in the door and get a new client. And
Exactly.
again, they're willing to put in inferior solutions. They're willing to lie about things.
Yeah.
And those people are out there. So, as the business owner, again, I think it's super important to find someone like yourself who's able to cooperate and have a productive conversation with the existing IT team. And if the existing IT team is completely inferior and completely not up to the task, you'd be able to provide factual data that that
Yes.
team would have to acknowledge. They would have to say, you know what? He's right. We haven't been doing backups 3 times a day off site to an archive location as well as to an on site appliance. And this is a real risk, but we weren't doing that because you said the cost was too high. You know what I mean? Like there's always going to be
Yep.
reasons for it.
Yep.
But the fact is now the business owner can go, oh, this is a liability that exists in my business. And it is something that I did tell them no, but they didn't revisit it because they're not structured the same way that a consultant or a company like Umbrella IT Services is.
Yep.
So it's very important, I think, again, just to make a final point there that when you're bringing in consultants, it has to be someone who wants to solve problems, not someone that wants to critique and tear things down. It's
Exactly.
super, super important.
Exactly, Jake. And a final takeaway is again for your listeners and for your viewers here. If they're talking to security consultants, if you are talking to a consultant or a security advisor and they are talking about tech solutions in terms of how to solve problems, oh, you need to put in product X, you need to put in product Y, and like you're saying, they're trying to find problems. Two things: run far, far, far away.
Yeah.
What you need is someone who's willing to engage in dialogue, someone who's willing to look at big picture, and someone who's willing to work with everyone at the table.
Yeah.
People who are just trying to say, "Oh, put in product X, that will solve your problems." Don't do it. Run far, far, far away.
Yeah, exactly. There's got to be a lot more that they're bringing to the table because again, sometimes you do need products, but if that's all they're saying, that's not true. Like you need
Yep.
to have ongoing support. You need to have
Yep.
constant meetings. You like not to the point where it's detrimental. Again, the entire point of you and I being brought in is to avoid downtime, and
Yep.
wasting 6 hours a week with us is downtime in my opinion. But yeah, there's so much more to be brought to the table than just throw this box in the back and never worry about this again. Like it's very much okay. We're gonna put this in. It's gonna do these things. Here are the risks with it. This is what we're gonna do to make sure we have contingency plans for those risks. And then moving forward, we'll sit down and we'll figure out where you're going to be in 3 months, and then we'll make sure that it's going to last. And this is my plan for the next 3 to 5 years for you guys with this new thing that we're going to implement. And then we're going to take a look every 3 months and make sure that it still doesn't need any updates, or we're not missing anything, or it's not being overpaid for, or being over used. So yeah, I think you're right. Where if someone just comes in and they go, buy this product, set it and forget it, don't worry about it ever again. It's like that doesn't sound right. Again, too good to be true. There's no
That's
no
right.
oil change that's gonna last you 100,000 miles.
So true. No free lunch.
Yeah, exactly. Um, do you have any advice for businesses that are they've been hit by a cyber attack, or they've been compromised, or they have a feeling that they've been compromised? What can folks like that do to kind of see what's going on inside of their business and to get more awareness?
Yeah, I mean, if they've been compromised, if they've been hit by something, I think again it's really important to engage with experts. One of the things that I always tell people is that you need to know what happened, and there's a subset of security called digital forensics,
Yeah.
and which is almost like the CSI squad to be able to figure out what happened. And again, yes, it can be expensive, but again, you've almost deferred those costs by not investing in cybersecurity. So I always like to say it's a debt that you took out, and now that loan's being called. You have to pay back that debt. So I think it's super important that when that happens, again, yes, it can be scary. Yes, it can be worrisome. But again, I always say use it as an opportunity, and which it can be a learning opportunity to get you to a spot where your organization needs to be. So bring in digital forensics. Bring in cyber risk leaders who can then look at what happened, look at bigger picture, look to and do a much deeper assessment. Say, okay, here's how we're going to get your security maturity from the dirt floor where it is right now to a spot where it makes sense and fits with the overall risk tolerance of the organization.
Yeah.
So it's again, don't try and navigate those waters alone. I like to tell people that cybersecurity has come a long way. It used to be a field ruled by generalists. Now it's a very hyper specialized field. So you need to make sure that you're engaged with experts.
Yeah, I agree. What are some common mistakes that you see people making when they're trying to implement this stuff?
Oh gosh, to me, I would say it would be a misalignment between sort of the policy and the technology.
Yeah.
Often it'll be, okay, well, we're going to install endpoint protection, and some things to protect the laptops and workstations, and maybe the tech team will go away and install all that, or IT MSP might go away and install all that, but it's done in a vacuum. It's not going back to mapping back to capabilities or mapping back to what types of risks are we trying to mitigate.
Yeah.
If they're just rolling things out with the default policies and not trying to customize it at all, again, yeah, we're getting some protection, but we're not doing it in the way in which we're really focusing on redundancy and resiliency. You need to take a more structured approach rather than just trying to just throw stuff out there. It's okay, take the time to be methodical about it, make sure that the policies and what we're expecting from a risk reduction point of view, that's actually mapped back to the actual technology that's being implemented.
Yeah. And what does that look like exactly? Like if you were going to say this is a solution to that problem, what does that look like?
Yeah, to me, back to the earlier point about making sure that there's sufficient dialogue. Mm-hmm. It's not just we need to have a new anti-malware solution. We need to have endpoint protection. It's like, okay, let's just buy a product and slap it in there. It's like, no, let's define what our requirements are. Who's going to be using it? Are we going to be monitoring it? What type of alerts are we going to be wanting to get from that? What type of risk reduction in terms of malware are we expecting? What type of user interface are we expecting our staff to be able to interact with it? Or is it just going to be IT support or the IT help desk or whomever that's going to be managing? And you need to go through a very structured approach to things because at the end of the day, these things all map back to some level of business process or business workflow. Too many people still take I'll pick product X, install product X, wash my hands and walk away. You need to take a lack of a better term, a structured, almost like a project management approach to things.
Yeah, I entirely agree. Do you have any tools that you would recommend people look into if they're starting to kind of take this seriously themselves? Because again, I think for the smaller businesses, it would be the most important to focus on because, again, the larger businesses, they have the resources. They can reach out to somebody like yourself or I if they are concerned or they have if they want to get a second opinion. But for the smaller businesses out there that don't have budgets to be able to reach out and do I think you said $3,000 security assessment is what one of these places was charged. Again, we're happy to do complimentary assessments for folks, but in your experience, what are some of these tools that a small business owner with, let's say, like an assistant and an apprentice would be able to use to make sure that they're on the right track?
Absolutely. Even then, making sure that you have some basic things in place, and even if that's something with, as an example, there's a lot of organizations that use MacBooks now, and it's like, making sure that you have a good free anti-malware solution, like Sophos as an example, as a really great Mac solution. Just saying, I have a Mac, I'm secured. Again, that's wrong type of mindset there. Even if you're running Windows 10, again, only that you have Windows Defender, I think that there's some good basic things in place. I think what's important, especially as the operating systems have become much more resilient in recent years, is making sure that you are leveraging an updated operating system. If you're still running a Windows XP or Windows 7, get the hell off that. You shouldn't be running that. To me, if we're talking about not even getting to the point of tools, just from a mindset perspective, run updated technologies and make sure that whatever programs or operating systems you're running, making sure that those stay updated as well.
Yeah.
That to me is one of the best things to focus on, rather than saying use tool X or tool Y. To me, I just try and break it down into that simplest component. And another thing as well is that something which we've developed at CyberSC is an automated course, or what I refer to as almost a YouTube series of sorts, for organizations that are really small companies that they want to learn a bit more about how they could take a structured approach to cybersecurity and how they can be better accountability partners with their IT providers. It's almost like what I refer to as a DIY, so do-it-yourself approach.
Yep.
Cybersecurity. So if you're not big enough where you can afford larger advisory services, it's almost the example I like giving is if you need to buy a new dishwasher, you can either hire a professional, or if you're not able to, watch the YouTube video and see if you're able to do it yourself. Hopefully you don't flood your main floor or anything, but that's sort of the approach that we're taking with this, in which it's for that DIY approach to really help people better understand the basics and what they should do as a very small business owner, and the questions that they should be asking. So that's something which will be coming out hopefully sometime in late September.
Perfect. Yeah. Whenever you get that, just send me the link. Throw it in the description.
Absolutely.
Because I think it's so important for that. Like we do a couple seminars here on introduction to Microsoft 365, introduction to G Suite, social engineering, information security 101. All those are up on the channel here underneath our seminar section, away from interviews. And again, like I've had a lot of people reach out and just go, thank you so much for making this. Like I just get a little bit more peace of mind now that I understand, like, these are the ways someone is going to reach out and try to hack my business. And these are the most common ways last year that this happened. The feedback I get is mostly like, I didn't understand a lot of this, but now I understand more of it now that I've watched this video, and I feel a lot better having discussions with you and with other people in the space about this. Like, I'm not going to again lie and say, everyone's like, now I'm a cybersecurity genius because I watched your 2-hour seminar. But they're like, I genuinely did appreciate that you made the effort to put this out. I watched about half of it. It was really, really informative. I got overwhelmed because it's just so much information, but I'm going to come back at it and I'm going to watch another 15 minutes. I'm going to watch another 15 minutes. And after a couple of months of it being up now, people are telling me I watched the whole thing. And now I'm keeping an eye out. When I get a phone call, am I giving out personal information? When I make a vacation responder, am I telling people how long I'm going to be gone for and where I'm going? There's all these little tiny things now that people are starting to pick up, and they're starting to understand why it's a risk, and in 2020 why it's so risky to just be giving out information. Because even if you're telling people going to Mexico on your Instagram, it's very easy for somebody to, again, spoof your email address and say, guys, I'm stuck in Mexico, my wallet got stolen, I need you to send me $1,600 for my e-transfer for a plane ticket home because they took everything. Please send it to my email right now. And then you click, you know what I mean? And then you're done.
Totally.
So there's so many different avenues for people to get into. And if people are looking for a really simple way to break things down that's easy to approach, I'm going to be sure to send them your way.
Absolutely, and I think it's so important to generate that type of useful content, Jake. I think that's the way that we'll end up changing the mindsets of both individuals and business executives, especially in the SMB world, is through that good, consistent content.
Yeah.
And definitely would love people to, if they want to again see good content, just learning some basic stuff around cybersecurity, and what I'll refer to as mildly entertaining as well. Please have people can check out CyberSC on our LinkedIn page or any of the social media channels, Instagram, Twitter, or our YouTube page. There's a lot of great content there for people to peruse as well.
Yeah, I learned a couple of things just going through your LinkedIn, to be honest with you. And again, I think that a lot of folks, again, it's not this thing where you need to learn it. You know, a lot of people don't care. You know, a lot of financial advisors, a lot of lawyers, they don't care. Like, they don't understand a lot of basic stuff, and they don't care because they're so busy. But being able to scroll through your Instagram in the morning when you're having your coffee, or go through your Twitter feed, or go through your Google News, or go through whatever it is that you're scrolling through whenever you're scrolling, or have an email newsletter, whatever. Being able to just have that little one line of text that says, here's your tip of the day from CyberSC. Like, that's huge, and it adds up over time. And eventually, the same way that you get a little bit of a nugget about a sports team, or you get a little nugget about a new AirPod that came out, or the new iPhone's going to have 4 cameras. Oh my God. You know, all these little tiny things. Having a little bit of someone like yourself or myself in your newsfeed, where it's a little tiny nugget of just one line of information, like, your data should be in 3 places at all times. Easy. You know what I mean? And people just scroll through and they go, I wonder why that is. Anyways, and then they're in an interview with someone trying to get an IT guy in, and he goes, no, you only need to have your data in Dropbox. It's fine. Then you go, well, I saw on a thing that it's supposed to be in 3 places. Why wouldn't you want to have it in 3 places? Well, because this, whatever. And again, like, you can get your data backed up in different places for as low as $6 a terabyte. So it's very inexpensive. But my entire point, is that people should be focused on finding easy solutions and a lot of information out there in an easy way, or they should be trying to work with somebody personable like yourself, so that when they do need to focus on this stuff, the same way you go through your year-end audit with your accountant, you're going to be able to break things down for them in a way that makes sense, where it's friendly, it's easy for them to understand, and then they can go back to not caring until your next quarterly meeting.
Exactly, Jake. You know, it's that what I've referred to as a almost like as a ripple effect, in which, you know, those things add up, like exactly what you're saying there, add up over time, and really just the more aware we can make people, the better. So I think it's so important that over time that there's great people, especially like yourself, to be able to get that message out there that resonates with people. And I think that's eventually how we'll sort of turn the tide, so to speak, and have more and more organizations be more cyber aware.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think long form content like this is important, but at the end of the day, I do think that it's going to be that image with that line of text. You know, it's going to be that one tweet, or that my favorite thing is LinkedIn now, because I've got a ton of people like yourself after just starting the show. A bunch of people added me on, and now I'm seeing all these experts like yourself just posting once a day, a couple times a day, and it's just these little tiny things when I'm just waiting in line, or if I'm if I'm waiting in line, I'm scrolling through LinkedIn, I can just see like, oh, I didn't know that this new thing happened to Microsoft, or I didn't know that this breach happened here, or oh, that's kind of interesting. Why is this software better than that software? And then my interest is going to be piqued, and I can dig into it more. But again, I think a lot of people don't care. I think a lot of people won't care. But I think it's important that when they realize they kind of have to care, there's easy to approach people, giving them small, digestible bits of information. I think we're at kind of that turning point now where in 2020 it's unavoidable. You need to start taking IT and cybersecurity seriously if you're going to be a small business owner in today's day and age, because not having basic tenets can be the difference between having a business in a week and operating normally. It's gotten a little bit intense like that, unfortunately, and I don't like the fear-based mindset that a lot of people have. But I do like it, again, when speaking with someone like yourself, where it's a productive, positive conversation.
Absolutely, no, and I think that's so referred to as the seas of change. So I'm very hopeful that over the next few years we get to that point, and having that type of positive dialogue, that's how you inflict positive change on the environment. And I think it's through these types of conversations that people become more informed. And man, I can't believe how fast that convo flew by. That was so much fun.
Absolutely. Do you have any resources or market leaders or any individuals that you like to follow that you can recommend to people if they are interested in learning more about this stuff? Obviously, following yourself and CyberSC on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. But do you have any people that you're following or any corporations that you're following that could be of interest?
Absolutely, and especially for those in Greater Vancouver here, another great organization, a security organization called Cobalt.io. They're wonderful organization, do a lot of great security monitoring work as well. Highly recommend them. That they're great thought leaders in the space. But in terms of other security thought leaders, gosh, I'd be hard pressed because a lot of them are much more technical in nature. But the thing I always recommend to people in terms of a good security resource or security podcast to even listen to, there's one called Down the Rabbit Hole. It does get a little technical, but it's really interesting. They talk about so many different interesting security tales and things that happen in organizations. So for people who do like a good listener, a good yarn to listen to, I do recommend that podcast.
Yeah. And I think the team at Sophos, another Vancouver-based company, they're great. A lot of their Instagram and all that stuff, they do a great job educating folks. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good summary. Do you have anyone else you'd recommend?
Gosh, I'd be hard pressed to think of someone else. You know, the thing that I would recommend as well is just if people are interested in different security products, like you were mentioning there are some great vendors that put out good work. CrowdStrike and Tanium are also really great to follow on their social media channels. They have a lot of really great, interesting reports. There's always the Verizon data breach incident response report that comes out once a year. It's also chock full of really interesting tidbits, and there's some sections which are very well written, and that even a business person, not technical person, will understand.
Yeah, that's awesome. And do you have anything you'd like to promote before we start wrapping it up?
No, just like I mentioned there, the online course for those really small organizations. So please do stay tuned for that, as well as we have a podcast referred to as it's called CyberSecurity Matters, where I'll bring in different security people as well as other LinkedIn thought leaders. We've been very lucky to have some amazing LinkedIn thought leaders join us on our show. So it's another great resource where we talk all things security and just all things business as well. And now that I think about it, we need to do a reversal. You come on the show, and then I'll be the one interviewing you.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, no, I'd love to come on. That'd be awesome. Alrighty. Again, thank you so much, Dom, from coming on from CyberSC here. And I think that does it for today's interview. So I hope everybody got a fresh perspective on cybersecurity, and I hope we were able to kind of shed some light on some insider thoughts on the sector here, and leave some business owners with some good outlooks and kind of some tools they can use when picking a vendor, finding out their own solutions, and just kind of looking at their business again with a fresh perspective when it comes to cybersecurity. Doesn't need to be this overwhelming, stressful activity. Think of it more of a boring one, like your accountant. So everybody, please make sure to check out Dom and CyberSC using the links in the description. And again, thank you so much for coming on, Dom. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jake. Have a good one.
You as well. Bye. And I think that does it for today's video. If you could please leave a like on this video, it really helps us out. If you want to see more videos like this, then please hit subscribe. If you have a suggestion for a future video or a guest you'd like to see on the show, please leave a comment down below or email us at techtips@umbrellaitservices.ca. Have a great day and see you all soon.